passionate, driven, enthusiastic, euphoric. This is who we are as entrepreneurs. But how we leverage these incredible attributes to dream and build businesses that scale and grow is what this podcast is all about. Hello, I'm attorneypreneur Josh Brown, and welcome to Franchise Euphoria. Hello, welcome back to another episode of Franchise Euphoria. Today, I'm thrilled to have on Bill Troy. Bill is an Inc. 500 CEO and a natural-born contrarian who, for 25 years, has helped global brands like Sony, Disney, and Nestle see the world from a different perspective. Bill's forthcoming book, Clicksand: How the Pitchmen of Online Marketing Suck You In and Ruin Your Business, is an explosive wake-up call and warning for business owners about the dangers and hypocrisy in online marketing. In Clicksand, Bill compares giant firms like HubSpot, Google, and LinkedIn, as well as local agencies and consultants in towns big and small, to snake oil pitchmen of the 1800s. Wow, Bill, just coming right out with some controversy here, huh?
How about that setup, huh? Absolutely.
Well, I really love it because, I was just having a conversation with a friend the other day, and I mentioned, in fact, I think it was last night, I said, I think these email funnels that I get, I said I would say for the last year or so, if I think or believe, and usually it's pretty easy to tell, if I'm on an email funnel, I usually just delete and don't even read it because there's in my mind, there's no authenticity to it. There's no genuineness to it. It's just, you fit into this certain line and now you're just going to be getting hit with multiple emails. And I hate to generalize like that because I think some people do it well, and I think that it can be done well. But I think to your point, boy, there's just a lot of stuff out there where people just try to get you in a funnel as if we're all kind of just, drones walking around, just trying to fill into the next step. So that's obviously one of the things I would imagine that has led to you putting this book together and you working with folks from the perspective that you work with them in.
It's become my mission with this book and speaking to get rid of funnels wherever they exist. Yes, that's a really good point because so many businesses are sending out message after message and believing that just because, Josh, you opened it, that they have a relationship with you now, when in fact, they just damage the relationship with you and they can't even see it because they're blinded by all this data and dashboard and, magic that's supposed to be happening. It's just a big lie in a way.
Well, and I think a lot of people appreciate that. And I think people from the business perspective, from the franchise perspective, folks who are going out there and oftentimes taking their nest egg, right? Taking something that, maybe they've worked in corporate America their whole career and they've built up this nest egg, their retirement, and they're going to go and put it all on the line for a business, or they're going to try to do it on their own and grow a business. And there's just a lot of people tugging at their tails, trying to get their attention. So before we dive into that a little bit more, I'm just curious so that the folks out there have an idea. Tell us a little bit about your background. It says that you're an Inc. 500 CEO and natural-born contrarian. Have you always been that way?
Yeah, I have. I've been a rule breaker since the very beginning. I got in trouble a lot even as a kid, so my mom would vouch for me on that one. The Inc. 500 part, so I started an online market research company about 20 years ago now, and we've done online surveys, consumer surveys, worldwide, in fact, for a lot of those brand names that you mentioned. And then about 6 years ago, we started a marketing company, Civilis Marketing, Civilis being Latin for civilized. And over the last few years, combining what I've seen over the years in the market research space about how data is interpreted by businesses, misinterpreted in many cases, and what I've seen in the marketing space with the growth of online marketing, and especially that being so data-driven, I just started to see a pattern where businesses were just business owners were falling for something that seemed like a magic pill, a silver bullet that would easily get them to have customers show up in their inbox. And it wasn't really happening. And especially, you're in that world of franchises, Josh, and you know that there are a lot of people that go into new businesses they have no experience in when they get into a franchise and they're looking for answers. And if the wrong people give them the wrong answers, that nest egg can go away. So it's really important that you're armed with the knowledge of what is and isn't possible so that you don't just follow somebody who's selling you a bill of goods.
So is that really what, you talk about the danger and hypocrisy in this in this method? Is that really what the danger is that they just get you down into, they take you on a road that's going to cost you a lot of money and take you in a direction you don't want to go into?
Yeah, they take you in a direction that's going to make them a lot of money. And the simple answer is that most of the time they're selling you on some sort of campaign related to volume, more emails, more clicks, more ads. And that's how they make volume. And what we find is that so many businesses are actually driven more by intimacy, having better relationships with fewer people, with better potential customers, not trying to send thousands of people emails or just play the game of getting the right keywords in your website and magically have people appear. It's really good old-fashioned relationship building. Now, you can use modern tools for that, but you can't just assume that you don't have to have a relationship with anyone anymore, and you can just put the right little magic phrase in the email subject line, and all of a sudden, money's coming in.
So, for those out there, and I'm sure you've heard this before, that are saying, Bill, I get you, I hear you, but, we're not going back to the horse and buggy here. So,
sure.
So how do you balance that? I mean, how do you balance it with companies and businesses that obviously need to reach consumers, and we're inundated, all of us are inundated with information. We certainly don't lack for information. What we lack for is the proper filtering to filter through the good information. So how do you capture somebody's attention in an authentic, practical, and beneficial way without spamming them with all this with stuff?
Yeah. Well, the challenge is that it's different for every business and every industry, because you have a different type of relationship. It could be a very small dollar transactional relationship that's transient in time, or it could be a multi-year relationship you have with a customer that's a large, deep relationship where they're trusting you with a lot of their, capital or just, their reputation. So there isn't one silver bullet. And I think that's really the flip side to what I'm saying, is that if you meet with any online marketing person, and I'm generalizing there, but just about any of them, whether it's somebody from LinkedIn or a local SEO consultant, all of them will tell you they have a magic bullet and you should totally be doing it no matter what industry you're in. And that's really the fallacy of this. All these tools are fine, just like signage out on your building is fine, and direct mail is fine, and radio and television are fine in the right context. But I really think the business owners are believing that online marketing is magical and right for any business, and that's really the challenge we're facing.
Well, and it's interesting because I had some recent conversations with some folks, and these are folks who I know well, and they're expanding. They're in the franchise space, and they're looking to expand and grow and add more franchisees. And some of the challenges that they've had is, they've worked with other companies that will find them leads, will have algorithms and so forth that will send people their way, but not the right people and not the right leads. And so one of the messages and one of the things I always work with them on is, you have to have the right combination, the right balance between the digital side, the social media side. Certainly, if you're not taking part in that, you're just missing the boat. But it's not a substitute for a relationship, and oftentimes I find that becomes a bridge to a relationship. And so, working with those various channels, but also identifying, how can I further those relationships so that you can actually meet people who are going to be the right people to come into your system. Now, is that how you work with folks? Do you work with folks one-on-one, or do you do things through group trainings, or just through your book, or what's your business model for what you're doing?
So at Civilis Marketing, we work with individuals and specific companies to help them nurture their own relationships. And we just decided I needed to put the book out because we can only work with so many companies, and millions of businesses are dealing with this. So the book is really a wake-up call and a way to help you kind of get back on the right track, whether you use another company or use us or just do it yourself. But, it starts with simple things like when you say you need a relationship, that's a word that gets tossed around a lot. And I would say, let's define what a relationship is. If you send someone a message, you call them or you send them an email, and they don't return it, then you don't have a relationship. A relationship is a series of two-way interactions. And so much these days, we're told that we have a relationship because we're sending people something over and over again. Well, if I just keep sending you a message and a message and a message and a message, I'm actually damaging that relationship. I'm not building a relationship. In fact, it's funny. I listened to your episode around the end of May, I think, with Kathy Knowles on the recruiting side of things. And she was talking about,
she's great.
Yeah, she was talking about building relationships with potential people you want to hire versus waiting for them to come to you. It's the same thing. you have to go out and build a two-way relationship with people that you want to be your customer. And you can't just fire at them all the time, and otherwise you're turning them off. So that's really we kind of help businesses do that, but we can't help every business. So the book is designed to help people get on the right track.
Now, it's interesting because before you mentioned how you pronounce, Civilis. When I saw your URL, I thought it said it was for Civil is Marketing.
Well, okay, we'll take that. Sure.
I don't know if anybody's ever mentioned that to you, but that's what I first thought when I saw the URL was I didn't think Civilis. I thought Civil is Marketing. I thought, well, that's kind of creative because, of course, your message is sort of that what's going on is not exactly. I wouldn't say it's not civil, but it's just annoying and ineffective, I guess.
Yeah, and I would also add the word diluted. I think, I'll give you one quick stat. Anybody who does an email marketing campaign, for example, has an open rate that they watch. And maybe you get a 32% open rate or click rate or something like that. Well, that means that you irritated 68% of the people, but it's not presented that way. Right? So it's all packaged to keep encouraging you to send more messages instead of showing you what's really happening. And that's really what we're trying to do here is say, did you make more people mad at you than made like you? And that's really, Civil is Marketing. That's perfect.
So are you ticking off, the HubSpots of the world? Or, I know in your book you're talking. Well, I mean, so talk to me about that because I know and for those out there, definitely go get his book, Clicksand, How the Pitchmen of Online Marketing Suck You In and Ruin Your Business. I mean, what a great title. I mean, just throw it right out there, exactly what it is. But I'm curious, tell me about some of the comparisons you make in the book, between the HubSpot and the local agencies. Now, some of these local agencies are trying to do the same thing.
Yeah.
Some of them are just licensing HubSpot and relicensing it for their folks. So talk about some of those comparisons and distinctions.
Yeah, so I think there are two groups of people in the online marketing world when I say pitchmen. And group number one are the people that for lack of a better term, I call them the evil ones, right? Where they know this is bad for folks and they're still selling it anyway because they're trying to make a buck. And honestly, I would put HubSpot in that category. Those guys sold till they could get their $880 million IPO. The company has never made money in the history. It's never made a profit in its entire history, yet they think they can tell businesses how to make a profit with this marketing things. And then there are a lot of people, though, that I think are actually just have been sold a bill of goods and they're in the industry. They're believers. They've been sold, they've drunk the Kool-Aid, and they're falling for it themselves and passing that on. And I'll give you a great example. We all know tons and tons of local marketing experts who are selling SEO or email marketing or whatever online marketing tool they're using, and maybe they're suggesting you use HubSpot. And they tout themselves as HubSpot certified or Google partner. And, when you look at those programs are actually just commission sales programs by another name. You have to generate a certain amount of revenue per month to be a Google partner. You have to make sales and you have to be trained on their product. Well, that is a sales job. And you have to keep bringing them business or you can't be a partner anymore. And a lot of the people, so Google knows that. And the people that are partners a lot of times don't realize what they've fallen for themselves, and they're continuing to pass it on and sell people. So, yeah, folks like HubSpot, I believe that they know exactly what they're doing, and they're selling more and more. I'll give you one other quick analogy. I believe that a lot of times companies like HubSpot, and there are millions other ones like that, but they are just putting more and more salt and sugar in fast food to sell more of it when they know it's bad for you. And that's what they're doing in the marketing world. They're putting more and more data and more analytics and more programs just to sell you more when they know it's harming businesses. So, yes.
It's interesting you say that because I would say it was probably at this point 6 years ago. Mm-hmm. So, HubSpot 6 years ago wasn't nearly what they are today. Yeah. They were really in that mode of trying to get people signed up. I actually utilized them, paid for their service, paid a lot of money.
Oh yeah.
And the people were helpful, the people were good, but I just realized after using it for a while that where I was in my business at that time, it wasn't the right fit. It wasn't, and I was spending a whole lot of money, and so I broke away from that. No hard feelings against HubSpot. I know they've helped a lot of people as well, but to your point of, I think for sure back then the idea was let's just get as many users as possible. Absolutely. Because that's the name of the game in that business, and we can justify it, right? to any business.
Yeah.
But it's not, we can justify it. So that's sort of interesting that you say that. Now I know on your website, civilismarketing.com, I know you have some specific programs or trainings that you actually do. What are those, and specifically, who do you target those to?
Yeah, so we end up working with businesses that have high value relationships that they need to manage and nurture. And what we're really doing is we're going back. It's funny that people need this, but we actually go back to human relationship theory and show how relationships are built and nurtured. So we've all gotten used to sending messages about ourselves. My company provides wonderful services in this field or industry, or if you have this problem, we can solve it for you. And that's really just talking about yourself. And that does not build a relationship. You build relationships by asking people for help, or offering, help to them and ahead of time, going first. And so we really almost break it down and say, what are the relationships you need? And then what does that person need on the other side? And then that's the service that we help them build. We either help them create the messaging, or write the note cards or the thank you cards, or figure out what that person wants to hear. But it's really, in a way, using modern tools with old-fashioned, good old relationship building. So that's really what we do for each client.
Well, I really appreciate you coming on, just taking a few moments. Obviously, we've only touched the tip of the iceberg. I know you can, for folks listening, you can find Bill's book at clicksand.net. That's clicksand.net. You can also find him and about these programs at civilismarketing.com, CIVILIS marketing.com. And I know you've got a treat of some sort for the audience or for the listeners out there. Tell us about that before we go.
Absolutely. If someone goes to clicksand.net/euphoria, I've got 3 things on there. First of all, we put chapter 5, which is the chapter that talks about the damage that online marketing can do to businesses. We put that on there free to download. And you don't have to give me your email address, because I'm not going to create an email list, and I'm not going to send you a bunch of marketing messages later. So you're not going to get into some sort of funnel to get that chapter. And then we've also got a link to get 35% off the book when it hits stores later this year. And then lastly, there's a link to my calendar. If someone wants to jump on the phone and debate or discuss or whatever, we can start a real human relationship that way.
Well, that's fantastic, and you mentioned this, so you don't have an email list, huh?
No, you're not going to get an email newsletter from me.
That is absolutely so contrarian to everything else, and I love that. Well, keep up the great work. Certainly keep me informed when the book actually releases, and I hopefully folks will go and check out what you're doing. I really think there's something to what you're doing. I think people are. I think people are getting to that point where it's beyond saturated in this space. Nowadays, anything you sign up for, you're just going to get spammed to death. Yep. But at the same time, I think people realize, and we all realize, we're not trying to take it back and ignore the benefits, but there's a way to do this process. There's a way to build a long-term value-based relationship that's a win-win for both sides, and it's not just spamming the hell out of people.
Correct, absolutely. It starts with how your relationships need to be built for your business, not with some tool or technique people bring you from the outside.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for spending a few minutes with us today, and best of luck to you. Thanks, Bill.
Absolutely. Thanks, Josh.
Thanks for being with us today on the Franchise Euphoria podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please be sure to go to iTunes and provide a review. Also, please remember that although Josh Brown is a licensed and practicing attorney, nothing contained in this podcast should be construed as legal advice, because it is not. The information contained in this podcast is general and educational in nature, and none of it should be relied upon as legal advice. That being said, if you have questions for Josh and would like to contact him, please email him at josh@franchiseeuphoria.com. Thank you so much for listening, and we hope you tune in to our next weekly episode.